kudos to Jamarcus Russell for giving back and coaching a high school team. Bad part is he stole, I don't know, $74,000 from the school. So as good as the initial allegedly. So as good as the initial intentions were, John, they may have been undermined.
They also better check their inventory for cough syrup.
Ouch. So
some of that's probably missing too. He had a problem with that at one time.
Right. He did, the scissorp, as they call it. So, John, I ask you this, sad or stupid? Caleb, do you want to set this up? Because there's some people that you feel really bad about. And I've been around a lot of those athletes that got addicted in my generation, Caleb, to pain medicine. And I've seen them respond poorly to that after their playing days, passing away in their late 40s or 50s. So I've seen that personally. But Caleb, some people are just stupid and selfish, right?
Yes, and for people who, and John, you'll be intrigued by this. The reason we're setting it up this way is Dave and I spoke yesterday, and Dave is such a bleeding heart, and he felt like he didn't want to come down too hard on Jamarcus Russell because he feels like Jamarcus Russell may have a problem. I, on the other hand, I am sympathetic to people who have problems. I think Jamarcus Russell, though, falls in the stupid category because I think he was sociopathic first. And he was lazy. He stole all that money from the Raiders and didn't care if they won or lost because he was getting paid and sold his teammates out. And I know you criticized him earlier, Dave, but my favorite line was when Stephen A. Smith said Jamarcus Russell is Jabba the Hutt in the NFL. He spent all of his money on a bunch of donuts, and that fat slob doesn't belong in the pros ever again or anywhere near a football field.
How long did he have Carrie Fisher half naked hanging around him? That's a win.
So I'm going stupid with Jamarcus Russell because I think it's disgraceful to get drafted that high, command all that money, and not care when you have so many other teammates who they're desperately trying to get a contract and their livelihood depends on your play as a quarterback. And so I have no sympathy for Jamarcus Russell.
John, we'll get to Carrie Fisher's outfit in Return of the Jedi a little bit later. But the one that to me is just stupid as far as bleeping away athletic ability most recently is Tyler Bray. To my knowledge, he didn't have any sort of problem. He just had a ton of ability and just didn't see the point of applying himself and taking advantage of it. To me, between sad and stupid, that falls in the stupid category. You?
Well, he obviously did have a problem.
Behavior problem. I guess I was talking about addiction problem. Sorry.
Wait, are you talking about Jamarcus Russell or Tyler Bray, John?
No, I'm talking. Dave was talking about Tyler Bray. That's what I'm saying. He did have a problem. If you have this ability and you don't cash in on it, I mean, that to me there must be some underlying fact. It's not like somebody wakes up and says, "Oh yeah, I got all this ability, but man, I really don't want to do much with it." Yeah, it's just not for me. Let somebody else do that. No, so that to me speaks to a problem. But I people have to be accountable. You have to be accountable for the decisions you make. And I'm sympathetic to anybody who when a tragedy is befallen them and things happen to them, they get on pain medicine. Yes, that's horrible. But you still have to be accountable for the choices you make. And so in Jamarcus Russell's case, I don't know about his background. I know when he was at LSU, they wouldn't let him audible. So I don't think the guy was top of his class. I think he might have had some shortcomings in the mental department. So, I mean, that was a problem in itself. I don't know that he set out to say, man, I'm just going to be a screw up. However, some people do. They look at it and they say, I got all this money. I'm done. Thank you very much.
See, I think that's what he did.
Well, you can certainly make that case. But
let me throw this at you. Let's take Mark Cuban, for instance, who made all the money in .com. It's not like he decided, Caleb, after that he was going to go help out America's Homeless. He bought an NBA basketball team. I'm not. He may be a very charitable person. I don't know.
Now we're just talking character of people. Like, I'm not here to debate, like,
Okay.
whether or not wealthy people should contribute more or stuff like that, like Mark Cuban to help America's homeless problem. But like, I'm just talking about athletes and the confines on the field. I think there are some cases where athletes are more sympathetic than others. I think Jamarcus Russell and Johnny Manziel are disgraces because they did not care at all about their ability. They took the money and just didn't care about about the future of their teammates, the future of the team that invested in them. That's disgraceful. So somebody, I talked about this yesterday, and John, you can give your thoughts. Dave disagree with me, but a guy like Ryan Leaf, I kind of felt bad for. I don't think Ryan Leaf didn't care if he was successful in the NFL. I think Ryan Leaf was a little thin-skinned. I think the NFL did get him hooked on the things he was hooked on. And I think that the confluence of playing with such a dysfunctional franchise like the Chargers, that all just kind of, I think he just had a mental breakdown. I don't think he selfishly set out to say, I'm the number 2 draft pick. I'm going to take all this money and I don't care what happens to my team.
John, it's funny how we view people different. I believe he didn't want to go to Indianapolis and ended up in San Diego. So I guess it's down to individual interpretation.
Yeah, but see what we're getting into uncharted territory here. How are we can't get inside somebody's head. We don't know what's going on with these people. They may have severe mental problems.
That's true. Let me ask you, who had the most ability of anybody you've ever covered that didn't even come close to maximizing it? And I'll go ahead and tell you first and foremost, and Caleb called it out when we first started working together, like first couple of days, it's James Banks. And it's not close. I think James Banks, with the right mentoring and coaching, and had he been, he was ahead of his time, could have been the type of quarterback you're seeing run around in the NFL. I think he was that special. John, you go back a couple of years more than me, who just peed away talent.
I mean, we're talking about anybody, not just Tennessee players, right?
Well, I'd be interested in both from you, to be real honest, because I know you've covered the Steelers, you've covered Jacksonville teams. I'm curious across the board.
Well, I mean, to me though, Johnny Manziel is the one that stands out. I mean, I thought this guy was going to be another Joe Montana. He had all the intangibles. His teammates loved him. He was so competitive. He would do anything it took to win. One of the best players I've ever seen in college football. Just amazing what he could do on a football field. He made everything look easy. Ask Nick Saban what he thinks about Johnny Manziel. He couldn't stop him. And he became addicted to cocaine. Now, what if he hadn't developed that addiction? Maybe things would have been completely different, but then we're talking about personality and how a person evolves and all that kind of stuff. But bottom line, in terms of a wasted talent, he stands out to me above everybody.
It's funny. You named Nick Saban. It's full circle. You're right. Nick Saban. That's true with Manziel. Nick Saban's also the one who recruited Jamarcus Russell and signed him to LSU. And
I forgot about it. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I mean, the reason I agree with your guys' takes that we can't get in somebody's head, but like, okay, Jamarcus Russell, y'all know the story where the NFL coaches didn't believe he was studying tape, so they gave him blank tapes and said, go home and study this. And he came back the next day and tried to pretend like he had actually studied the film. Like he got caught.
That's an awesome story. We're talking quarterbacks and we're talking LSU quarterbacks. I just thought of another one, Ryan Perrilloux.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Ooh.
If you go back and go back to LSU's national championship in 2007 when it beat Tennessee in a close, I guess a 1-point game or 1-score game, beat Tennessee in the SEC championship game. Matt Flynn was the quarterback and couldn't play. He was injured. And he was Matt Flynn was on the same team with the Jamarcus Russell too at one point. And Matt Flynn, the least heralded of all those guys, was the one that played in the NFL. Did better. Ryan Perrilloux, I don't think he even made the NFL, did he? but this was like the number one player in his recruiting class. And if you remember, he beat Tennessee. He did basically nothing else in his career, but he showed in that one game that he wasn't devoid of talent. He really had talent, but he just did nothing with it.
Well, LSU backups have a history of outsmarting John Chavis, so, you know.
So do a lot of offensive
LSU backup, yeah.